Welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to be sharing today's video with you guys because finally, after at least 6 months of just crazy shipping prices, finally there is a slight, even more than slight, quite a huge decrease in shipping prices this October. So if you are someone who is within the supply chain world, or you sell on Amazon, or anything to do with shipping really, you would have seen that the last couple of months we've seen 40-foot containers reach even highs of $25,000, $26,000 from Shanghai to LA port. And today, or from China in general to the LA port. And today, or probably a couple of days ago, I had a recent quote for a 40-foot container of around 10K. It really depends on a few different things there. But basically last week I had 𝗩𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 on the Seller Sessions podcast, which is a podcast where I co-host. I go live there on Thursdays. And we spoke about what we can expect from the shipping world in October 2021. We go really into in-depth updates of what's happening this October in the logistics world, and also we both give our predictions for what to expect this year. Also about things that are going on with China at this point in time as well. So I'm really excited to share today's video with you guys because I think that finally there's some good news, and also we give some really, really great tips. If you're new here, my name is Sharon Evan and I am a 7-figure Amazon FBA seller. I'm also a mother, a wife, an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, a podcaster, and an Amazon FBA coach. I do one-on-one coaching with Amazon sellers. If you are in need of coaching, make sure to check my link in the description down below. I also have an in-depth product research and sourcing course where I teach people how to both find products to sell online and on Amazon, and how to then source those products. That includes IP, in-depth market and competitor analysis, and everything around finding and sourcing products. So if you're in need of that as well, there's also a link to that down below. If you have not yet subscribed, this is a reminder, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me to grow the channel. Please also like this video if you liked it. Make sure to comment down below. Let us know what you think about the video, and if you have any questions, I'll make sure to get 𝗩𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 to answer as well. If you are in need of a freight forwarder, this is not sponsored. This is just, I actually have been using Unicargo for like probably 5 years now. So if you're in need of a freight forwarder, I highly recommend that you reach out to Unicargo. You can go to www.unicargo.com. That's it. Let's get into the video. Welcome to Seller Sessions. I am your host today, Sharon Evan, and today I have my good friend, founder of Unicargo, 𝗩𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Welcome back, 𝗩𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
Hey guys, hey Sharon, how are you today?
I'm really good. How are you? Just came back.
I'm good.
We're going to be talking about the current situations with Unicargo, not with Unicargo, with shipping. I try and bring you on at least once every 2 months because the biggest questions that I get in the industry and the talk of the industry is supply chain and logistics. Mm-hmm. And everyone is always consistently asking questions in groups around shipping. And also, I think that in the last year, this has been one of the things that have been so unstable and all over the place that I think it's important to stay consistently up to date with things that are happening. So We're not going to have like a super long show today because there's not a million things to talk about, but there are things that are going on. So I didn't even know about the current situation in the UK. So we started off with that. Is there anything you want to add about other countries? Because we usually focus on the US, and sometimes we forget there's other countries out there. So before we get into the US, you mentioned, there's shit going on in the UK. Are there any other countries that are significant as well that are worth talking about?
Right now, the situation in the UK, and it's getting a bit worse. I mean, it's getting a bit tight. Just yesterday, Port of Felixstowe, which is, I think, the biggest port in the UK, announced that they will not accept empty containers from 3 main shipping lines: Maersk, Evergreen, and I forgot the third one. Mm-hmm. Which basically means that if you ship a container to Felixstowe, right, you'll have your carrier, your freight forwarder will pick it up, will hand it over to the consignee, deliver it to your final delivery address, they'll unload the container, but then the Port of Felixstowe will not accept that empty container back. And if you don't return that empty container, you'll start paying detention fees, which means $200, $300 per day, or
Wow.
pounds per day if it's in the UK, which basically means your freight forwarder will now have to return the empty, and that's from yesterday. That's announcement from yesterday from the Port of Felixstowe. That basically means that if you sent a container to Felixstowe and you unloaded it, now you have to get the empty back into Southampton, which is basically gonna cost you at least 200, 300 pounds more per that container. And that's, again, that's something unexpected, right? People have containers on the water, sent to Felixstowe, and all of a sudden they'll have this hiccup. Now with shortage of drivers, a lot of drivers wouldn't want to do that long haul, because that's now a much longer delivery to get it from Felixstowe, from center of UK, now down south to Southampton. So that's from yesterday in the UK. US, as of yesterday, we are looking at, let me see, I have it here in front of me. Sorry, I know you don't like me looking at the other way. I'm looking at the other screen.
Okay.
As of yesterday, we have 60 containers at anchor outside of San Pedro Bay. San Pedro Bay is that day outside LA Port and Long Beach Port, which are the two probably biggest seaports in the US. And unfortunately, I don't know if we can call it getting a bit better, because, you know, last 2 weeks there were 73 vessels waiting, sitting and waiting. So now we are down to 60, which is good, but it's still
A lot.
numbers that nobody have ever seen before. Yeah. And 2 weeks ago, Port of Los Angeles, and again, there's a lot of talks and a lot of debates with the government about how to solve that situation in the US, because it's getting worse and nobody see how it can end. And they talk a lot about how to utilize, how to optimize, how to make things more efficient in order to avoid and clear these crazy backlogs. Just for people who don't understand, what does it mean? 60 vessels, basically every vessel takes thousands and thousands, and sometimes the big vessel tens of thousands of containers, and there are 60 of them. There was a report the other week I read that if you line up the containers outside Los Angeles port one by one, you can make it coast to coast just by the number of containers. Like you can go around the US with just the number of containers sitting on the water. Talking about over 150,000 containers sitting at the water, sometimes for 10 days, sometimes for 2 weeks, waiting to get in line, waiting to get into the port to get unloaded. And 2 weeks ago, or even less than that, the Port of Los Angeles started a pilot of operating 24 hours, 7 days a week, which wasn't the case until now. So hopefully this will help ease up things, because if the port is open 24 hours, basically drivers can pick up containers at night and, you know, in early morning, which wasn't an option up until 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago. I don't remember the exact date. So that's about LA. And
let's talk about price decreases. We spoke about this before we started recording. But I mean, currently we have seen significant decrease in pricing in the last couple of weeks. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there are reports in China, not reports. We see the rates that are dropping very sharply, which is very, very good news for shippers and importers. And we are talking from let's talk again, the benchmark is Shanghai, Los Angeles. That's the benchmark trade lane. And Shanghai, Los Angeles in September, the average cost would be $16,000-$17,000 a container. The price by the end of September dropped to $10,000 a container, $11,000 a container. Again, we are talking just ocean freight, port to port, no pickups, deliveries, etc., etc., which is basically almost 40, even more than 40%, which is huge decline in just 2 weeks. And the reason for that is, first of all, the power outages, the limiting electricity for factories by the China government. Basically, that caused less products, less production. If a factory can work 2 days out of a week instead of 7 days out of a week, they can produce much, they can produce a certain amount of products, which is much less than if they work 7 days a week. So basically, there is less cargo on the ground right now. It's an artificial because of the government. Again, the government didn't do it to reduce the prices of containers. That's not the reason they done it. That's one reason. And the second reason is the Golden Week, the second biggest Chinese holiday, which is 1st of October until today. Tomorrow, people in China started to get back to work today, some yesterday, but by tomorrow they'll all come back full time. And again, if China is completely shut for 5, 6, 7 days, it means again less products, right? Less products to fulfill, less containers to be load to load with products. So both power outage and a big holiday brought to a situation where there is less containers to ship. And again, the less demand you have, the more capacity you have, and that's where prices go down.
Start to go down. But if we talk about on a logical level, we're in Q4, February 12th is Chinese New Year. So on a logical level, currently there's a decrease. I can tell you that some of my suppliers have bought generators. So they've found solutions for how to
overcome the power outage.
To still operate. I did an entire show last week about the electricity outages, and it keeps changing. The current situation in China, something new is happening every day. Like I can talk about something one day and then the next day it's no longer a problem, or you talk about something one day and the next day it's a million times worse. There's just so much stuff going on in the supply chain world. But on a logical level, I don't think prices are going to stay this low when it comes to shipping. And I asked you this before we went live, and you said we just don't know. But if we think about it logically,
they should go back up.
Yeah, go back up.
Okay. Logically, but again, things hasn't been logic in the past, years. So I'll say it again, nobody knows. We will start getting rates again by early next week. After China comes back, shipping lines will release new prices. All the booking agents, shipping lines in China will come back to work, and they'll assess the situation again, supply and demand. The number of bookings waiting, how many shippers and how many containers on the ground needs space on a vessel, and that what will adjust the price basically. And logically, they should go up again, prices, but
we just don't know.
We just don't know. It's
a tough time because it's so difficult to predict costs as a seller. It's very difficult to predict costs for a lot of things because of raw material. Shipping is crazy.
I would assume that prices would stay low. And when I say low, I mean compared to August, September. I would assume they'll stay low for October as well. Right? Until factories come back, until production picks up again, it'll take some time. It doesn't happen in a day, right? So I would assume October would be a very, very good month to ship containers. We've already started seeing big movements by appliances, appliance importers, furniture importers that ship bulky products. And when prices are very high, they just can't ship. They hold the products at the factories. They keep it in China because they will lose money. And we've started to see a very big movement by these bulky product importers, because the prices went down. And now there is a time window, like, all right, now it's the time to ship. So a lot of these guys are now shipping massive amounts. And again, if you have containers, and it's not, you can't really play with it all the time, but if you have container, now is the time to ship. Again, I wouldn't, some people say, hey, we would wait, maybe price will go down even more, and some just jump on the opportunity and ship as much as possible, as fast as possible. I would choose option B. Ship your products, because nobody knows, it might go up again, it might spike up again in 2 weeks, and you will lose that window. So as long as you can get space and a good rate, just ship it. Don't wait.
How is this impacting air shipping?
Air shipping went crazy up before the holiday because of the holiday. And it will probably ease up a bit in the next week, but air prices are very high again. Looking at around $11, $12, $13 a kilo again for the end of September. Prices for next week are not yet released because everybody's on holiday. And airlines, agents, booking windows will come back tomorrow, and we'll have more information about that. Outside of China, Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, prices are crazy high. We see prices out of Malaysia $14, $15, $16 a kilo and up.
Wow, for air?
Very, very expensive.
Because there aren't a lot of airplanes, or what?
The space is not as big as in China, right? China has the most capacity, airlines, number of planes, etc. Now Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Nepal, they have the same situation with COVID and less capacity. So prices there tend to be much higher than China in general. Also for containers, by the way.
So Vietnam is currently, container-wise, is costing more than China?
Vietnam, it's a bit tricky because Vietnam, there are still contracts with shipping lines. Shipping lines are not playing the spot market game like they do in China. So there are still good prices for containers in Vietnam. For Unicargo, for example, we have a contract for a year with 2 big shipping lines with a good rate. And when I say a good rate, we're looking at about $11,000, $12,000, $13,000 container. China is 17, 18, and it was even $20,000 container. So situation container-wise in Vietnam is a bit better. Problem with Vietnam is that there are a lot of lockdowns, lots of COVID cases, lots of lockdowns, lots of factory not working, trucking companies. It's a mess. It's really a mess.
Rafael, Unicargo works with a lot of really big companies and a lot of really big sellers, and also you guys work with all sizes, but you do have a lot of really big clients. Are you seeing a shift with your bigger clients of also starting to source outside of China, or if the really big clients, are they sticking to China? Because my logic tells me the world needs to realize that, China isn't the only country. You and I spoke about this about 1.5 years ago. And you said to me, I said to you, we will need to start looking at other countries. And you said to me, there's not many countries that can compete against China because they're like 40 years ahead of everyone. And I agree with that. But I think
infrastructure-wise,
because they're a one-stop shop as well. They have, but I think that this last 6 months has been a testimony to how much, I'm not saying people should not source from China at all. I'm just saying that it's problem after problem, and there are other countries in the world. Have you seen any shift in the really big clients, or are they sticking to China?
The majority of the production by our big e-commerce clients is still in China. But I would say that we see, for example, from the aggregator market, that they see a lot of value in a seller that have a diverse supply chain. And when I say a diverse supply chain, I mean, let's say you have a supplier for, I don't know, for plastic cups in China. If you'll have another supplier for plastic cups in Malaysia, that's value there, because you are not really dependent on one. If one goes, he has a power outage now, he can work 2 days a week, he can produce, you have
Switch to the
an
other.
option. And that's exactly what I said when we just started talking. Like, you gotta have multiple vendors. Freight forwarders now gotta have more carriers, and it's same as sellers regarding the suppliers.
Yeah, I think it's important in general. I always say, always have a backup supplier.
I'll give you an example. Fujian province in China is currently shut, completely shut. Fujian is a very big district. Xiamen is there. A lot of people will know Xiamen city. It's a very big production hub for apparel, shoes, plastics, and jade. And it's been, again, as you know, China, or you don't know, China has zero tolerance policy for COVID, zero, which means if one person gets sick, the whole area is shut down, completely shut down. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. We've seen it in airports, in Shanghai airport in September. We've seen it in Ningbo port, where it's just shut down
completely.
The third largest port in the world, one of its terminals completely shut down. Yeah, third of the production by these ports shut down, and China doesn't give a fuck. Sorry about the language. Yeah,
no,
they don't
right
care about you. They don't care about government. They don't care.
They
don't care about all these businesses that need product. They just don't care. It's a zero tolerance policy. So Fujian province, Xiamen, it's closed since the 10th of September, I think. So it's a month closed. Nothing comes in. You can't send the trucks in. You can't send trucks out. Factories are shut. They are not allowed to go to the factory. And think about it. Let's say you have a business that is basing itself on production in that specific area. Now, for a whole month, you're shut. You have products that are ready in the factory. You can't move them. And if you're a big business, that means huge amount of money lost. And if you're a small business, you can collapse. You can just collapse. So that's why diversifying your supply chain production wise means a lot today. So aggregators or big e-commerce companies are out there trying to add more suppliers to their bucket list, to their lists, to their businesses, and sellers would be very, very wise
to do the same.
Even if you have a good supplier in China, you trust him, you work from, you have a good relationship, you work for this amount of time, you work for a long time, you love him, and everything runs smooth, it doesn't mean anything. You still gotta develop these other suppliers, because again, that it takes time to develop a new production line. Supplier samples, it works, it not work, quality issues, quality problems, you gotta find quality inspections and vendors to work in that specific country. You gotta learn, understand, the culture and how they work, and there's a lot of trial and error, and it takes time. It's not and that's what I said about China. You have Alibaba, you can start production within a week. Find the supplier, get samples, and start production within a week or 2 weeks. It doesn't work like that in other countries. It doesn't work like that. India, Vietnam, Malaysia, Cambodia, you gotta source differently. You gotta work with suppliers differently. You gotta.
Every country has its own ups and downs. The last probably 3 months of the content that I've been making on Seller Sessions has been mostly around supply chain, and I've been talking every week about different countries to look to source from, and you're just strengthening exactly what I believe as well, because we can't keep, a lot of us are not going to have a business anymore if it continues being this way. And that's why I was very interested to see what the really, really big, $100 million type of.
Again, don't forget that the bigger you are, the harder it is to start another production line. there's more to lose, there's more at stake, huge amounts of products, it's even harder, much harder to move a big production line or add another production line. And when you're a smaller seller, it's easier.
Yeah.
You have basically less to lose.
Yeah.
You can take a bit more risks because you don't
Same with
manufacture tens of thousands, 100,000 units. Yeah, you produce 1,000 units, 2,000 units, and I think smaller sellers should take advantage of that and
diversify.
and diversify. That's very, very important. And again, I see that diversifying raises the value of a business. It makes it more stable.
100%. I agree.
Makes it more stable than relying on one supplier, one provider.
You can't anymore, in my opinion. We've this last year has taught us that
Most people do. Most people do count on one supplier.
and it's a problem. It's a
Yeah.
problem now because then you have, one of our suppliers said to me overnight, first of all, raw materials went up by 100% overnight. And second of all, we're only currently working 2 days a week. They later on found, because of the power outages, they later on went and bought a generator and things changed. But, even I had a mini heart attack. So I think that it's something that is really, really important. So we spoke about price decrease and that we believe that will end up going up, but October is a good month to
Very good month to
get
ship
stuff out.
again. Considering the situation compared to the previous 6 months, that's a very, very good month to ship.
I would predict that November prices would start going up a lot with a lot of really, a lot of people preparing before Chinese New Year as well. Now, there's been a lot of people that are talking about the shipping world that have started telling people to look at other ports. And I spoke to you about this before we started recording, and we've spoken about it almost every time that you've come on. I always ask you about other ports because this is what a lot of people ask. So if LA is so congested, then why don't I send to another port? And then also maybe it'll bring my pricing down.
Yeah.
So I just know that that's probably something that will be asked often because we're pre-recording this because we
you ask it every time.
Every time.
And every time you need, I give you the same answer.
You do. Let's answer it again though.
Depends on the final delivery address. Yeah. If you need to go to LA, all right, your final destination is LA. You can avoid LA if you want, but it means there's price implications. Yeah. You can go to Oakland. You can go to Seattle if you want. Less congested. You'll have your products faster, but again, if you move a container load of products, moving them to Oakland and driving them down to Los Angeles area, Southern California, means an additional $2,000, $2,500. Can you cope with that? Right?
But would it be cheaper to send the container in general to Oakland rather than to LA? No.
Yeah.
So not only would it be the same price, but it would also add 2 to 3K, but it could mean that it gets there a lot quicker.
Yeah. You can save 10, 14 days.
Which to some people is crucial.
Yeah. And again, it's really, really individual. Depends on your profit margins, depends how fast you sell your products. Yeah. Some people sell hundreds and hundreds of units a day. So adding another $2,000 is nothing for them.
Yeah.
And for smaller sellers, it might be, a no-go.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really individual. But the answer to your question is yes, there are alternatives. There are different ways to do things. Yeah. If you ship to Dallas, if your final destination in Dallas, you don't have to go through LA. You can go to Houston, direct all water to Houston from China, and then truck your container from Houston to Dallas. All right. It's a bit more expensive, but it will be faster these days.
So the suggestion then would be to tell people to ask these questions when they're speaking to their freight forwarder.
Yes.
Is there another option? And I'm willing to pay a little bit more, for example, to get it there quicker.
Yeah. And I wouldn't always ask if there is a different option. Just, use your mind, open the map. You know, for example, Chicago always go through LA, but for some of our clients, we know that Chicago, the rail situation, the rail infrastructure in the US is even worse than Port of LA. It takes forever. It takes month and month to get a container outside of, you know, on the rail and outside of the rail. So we started unloading container in Los Angeles, moving trucks. Again, it's much more expensive, but it means that you'll get your products 2 months ahead of time. And look at the map. Just look at the map, try to understand yourself what it means, and then also consult with your freight forwarder. And again, there are possibilities, there are ways, but it will definitely be more expensive.
Got it.
The question is how much, and if you can take it or not. It's a go, no go.
Okay. So to recap, congestion in LA is the worst it's ever been. And we don't really know what is necessarily when that's going to get better, and if at all in the near future. There are options for other ports, but do your homework plus consult with a freight forwarder to try and figure that out and whether it even makes sense for you. And the biggest thing that would solve is more time, not money, but rather time, which is crucial for a lot of people.
Time is money.
Time is money. Price decrease. We know that there's a price decrease at the moment. We predict that October is a good month to send. And I predicted, and you agree with me, that next month, November, prices will probably start to go up. Logically, it makes sense because it's just before Chinese New Year, etc.
Yes.
We've got areas in China that are currently not only without electricity, but also in lockdown.
Yeah.
In lockdown. And just I asked you also on a just out of curiosity, I wanted to know if you've seen that people have started to also source outside of China. And you say that the really big sellers are sticking to China for now, but we both agree that diversity is important. There is other countries. What are you saying with India on a shipping level? Is India as expensive as China right now to get containers out?
Yeah.
More
same
or just
situation.
same?
Space situation in India is worse. Right now, space in China is pretty okay, considering the last year. So there is space in China. There's no problem with empty containers anymore, and there is no problem to get on a boat, on a vessel, which in other countries is still a problem. Right? In the Philippines, we have clients waiting for a month to get a container out, more than a month. And in China, it's not that situation in China anymore. So products are flowing pretty good in China, as long as there is no lockdown, and as long as you have products to move, if your supplier is able to produce products for you. But there is no space situation in China right now. It's pretty easy to move containers. All the freight forwarders, I would say, have space. And another thing I would like to mention that we didn't talk about today is I see a lot of posts on Facebook, you know, from sellers saying, hey, you know, my freight forwarder shipped my product. They say it arrived Los Angeles, but it's been sitting there for weeks and there is no news, or they are still saying there's congestion, yada, yada, yada. Every container has a number, and that number is traceable. Every container is placed on a vessel. The vessel has a name. The vessel has a voyage number. That vessel is very, very traceable. It's all transparent. If you have that vessel number, the vessel name, you can know exactly where is that vessel, how long it's been sitting waiting, when is it due to get unloaded, what's its turn in line. So get those details from your freight forwarder. If you don't get a bill of lading, most of the people who ship DDP with their suppliers or freight forwarders in China will never get paperwork, will not get a bill of lading. And if you don't get, when you get a bill of lading, it's all there, you know, the container number, the vessel name, the voyage number, everything. But if you don't get it from your freight forwarder, just ask, what's my container number? What's the shipping line name? what's the vessel name, what's the voyage number. If you have these details, you'll be able to know exactly where your products are, when are they due, if they are stuck in San Pedro Bay, just at anchor outside Los Angeles, you will be able to know, but just Googling it or going into the Port of Los Angeles website, you will be able to know when it's expected to get into berth, into the port, and you can understand exactly when your products are going to go off the ship. And if you have the container number, you can actually trace and see exactly when the container is being picked up and left the port, basically. So you'll know it's on your freight forwarder's hand. So don't, and that's mainly for the newer sellers, don't get fooled by, if you don't have a very strong relationship and you build a relationship with a freight forwarder, if you don't trust them, everything is traceable in our industry, in freight forwarding. You just need to know what to ask and where to search. So don't get, don't let people pull you in the nose, or excuses or vague information or parts information. All you need to know is your vessel name, container number,
and that's it.
And you can know exactly where your container. Next time we go live, we can show like a case study of how I find a container or a vessel, and how I know how long it's been sitting and when it's gonna unload. It's a 10-minute thing. We can show it to people so they'll know what to do when they have that information, basically.
That's really, really, really great advice. I have a really quick question, and then we'll end it for today. Currently, I work with a lot of sellers, and a lot of the time people complain because they say, I got a quote 2 months ago and now the quote is very, very different. So can you just, for the people that don't know, quotes from any freight forwarder have an expiration date because you guys get new pricing? Is it every week or just things change all the time? Yeah.
If it's air, during the past year and a half, COVID, almost 2 years, it's been changing. It can change even on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it depends on the time, depends on the period, depends on the season, but it changed very, very fast, very, very frequently by air. Sea freight will change every 2 weeks. And in crucial time or in bad times, it'll change every week. Again, we are not there anymore. It was like that. Sea freight right now will change every 2 weeks. But again, the fact that it changed every 2 weeks is a bit confusing because it will change on a specific dates, usually on the 1st of the month and on the 15th of the month. All right. So if you get a quote on the 10th, it'll be valid for 5 days, not for 2 weeks, because it will change on the 15th. And if you get a quote on the 10th and you approve it on the 10th and your product is ready on the 13th, and your freight forwarder will not be able to pick it up, or your supplier will not be able to load the container on the 13th, it might change again. And you approve the quote before the 10th. So the determined date is your gate in. That's your valid date. Gate in means container go into the port loaded with products. So if your container gets into the port before the validity expires, the price is valid. So it doesn't matter when you approve the quote. It doesn't have anything to do with the price, the time you approve the quote. And your cargo ready date usually would not mean, anything regarding the validity of the quote. It's the time of gate in, we call it, where your container gates into the port. All right, that would determine your quoting timeline or period or validity.
Because a lot of people get frustrated with that. You just gave an exact scenario of things that I know that have been happening with not Unicar, with everyone.
It is very frustrating. I can understand it. You get a price, you agree to it, you build your budget
Suddenly they
around
tell you,
it,
hey, the price has
and
gone up.
changes. Yeah. And again, now situation in China is a bit better because you don't see price, peaks in $3, $4, $5,000 a container anymore. We've seen it. We've been there this year, where this week it's, I don't know, $15,000 and next week is $20,000. Huge difference. Right now it's a bit more gentle, I would say. The price hikes are not that aggressive or violent. So it's a bit better, but it does change. It does change. So, and it also it also needs, you also need to mention that when you source a product and you build your budget, you're trying to understand your COGS, your cost of goods or landed cost, you'll get a price from your freight forwarder, from your supplier for the logistics, for the shipping. But if your product will be ready a month after, that price might not be valid anymore.
It's a tough time to make predictions on margins because of what's happening currently in the shipping world.
So you can't really launch products with lower margins. You just can't, because you might
have wiggle room for
you must have very big wiggle room.
Because also lead times have gone up so much now. It's not really usually a month. Someone could be asking for a quote for something that will only be ready in 3 to 4 months, and who knows that's impossible.
No, it's not even relevant.
It's not. It's
not even relevant. Unfortunately, the seller, the importer needs that information. It's not that you can skip understanding his cost. But he'll get a
quote that isn't going to be relevant and
it's valid now. It really also depends on how many products, what type of product you move, right? If you move small items, you have much more items in a shipment. Right. So you're less affected by the unit cost. If it goes up by 500, by 1,000, it's basically cents. But if your products are bulky, volumetric, your unit price, your shipping unit price will change dramatically. It really depends on the type of products as well. I would say have enough of a wiggle room. And again, that's a bit hard for new sellers. Have enough wiggle room, have enough profit. Try going for more expensive products that you have more margin on them. And that would be the best case scenario right now. But again, it could be very tricky for a newer seller, a guy who's just starting out. He wouldn't put $50,000 on his first production, right?
It's not, I will say it's not only for newer sellers. I mean, you work with a lot of my clients as well. And, we're moving people's manufacturing from here to here, like all sorts of optimizing as best as possible. But also, you know about the Australian clients when we moved all their manufacturing to Australia. We did that because it no longer made sense to ship it from China. It could make sense again in a year. Like everything is just so diverse right now. You have to consistently adjust. It's a tough time in supply chain. It's you got to be
it's the toughest
it's been. You got to be very resilient and a problem solver and resourceful. All right, Rafael, thank you so much. I appreciate every time that you come on. Probably see you in about a month and a half. I'll see you next week, but I mean on seller sessions we'll probably meet again in about
stay strong, guys. Remember, everybody on the same boat. It's not just you, it's everyone, whether it's small, big, it doesn't matter.
We're all going through this.
And as Sharon said, stay flexible. Move fast, take decision fast, be agile. That's the key. And it is what it is. That's the business. It is what it is. You gotta be a bit, an elephant skin, especially now, to deal with changes, and it's tough.
It's also an opportunity. A lot of people will quit, and the people that have the resilience and they're tough enough and
Yeah.
obviously the funds as well for it
Yeah, the pockets. We see it. We
will
see a
stick.
lot of. I see a lot of sellers that have just stopped producing certain products
Because it
because
doesn't make sense anymore, because it's too expensive now, because not only have you got the shipping pricing, you need more because lead time's gone up and the raw material pricing has gone up, manpower in China has gone up, everything's going up, and then you have sellers on Amazon putting their prices down. So a lot of it,
which doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense, and
I don't understand that.
I can definitely understand that a lot of people will also either get rid of some products, and some people that are new will quit, and it's a great opportunity for the people that understand that there's an opportunity here to take advantage of and you know, stick here. So Rafael, if anyone wants to contact Unicargo, how should they contact Unicargo or you?
Just Google Unicargo. You'll reach our website. You can Google my name on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can contact me directly if you want.
For the people that are listening to the podcast and aren't seeing us, that's Rafael, REFAEL.
Yeah.
𝗩𝗂𝗍𝗃, and then Unicargo. They can also email service@unicargo.com. See, I do a better job at you than you for getting that. www.unicargo.com. Cool. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, you can find me on Facebook, Sharon Evan, or my YouTube channel, Sharon Evan, and join the Amazon FBA Alphas Facebook community. Rafael, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Next week, and seller sessions we'll probably see you in about a month or so. Everyone have a great day.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Rafael. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.